Hello there, and welcome to the UPLC3 Webpage Basics training video. This video will cover how to navigate the UPLC3 webpage interface. Future videos will go into greater detail on UPLC3 settings and features. Today, we will be covering the following topics: logging into a UPLC3, creating accounts, logging out and back into your newly created account, and finally, navigating the web page. At the end of this video, we will provide phone and email contact information if you have any further questions. The external connections to a UPLC3 are identical to earlier UPLC and UPLC-II. There is a front 9-pin RS-232 serial port and a front RJ45 Ethernet port for local programming, and rear RJ45 and/or fiber ports to connect to a network. Once you have connected physically to the UPLC3 via either RS-232, the front Ethernet or network, you may open an Edge or Chrome window and type in the IP address of the UPLC3 you are trying to access. This brings up a login screen, which asks for your username and password. If this is a brand new UPLC3, the default username is super, and the password is also super, all lowercase. There are no administrator accounts in UPLC3, so the factory default is a super user. This brings up the home page of the UPLC3. At the top right, there is the name of the user that is currently logged in and their role. The next step for commissioning a new UPLC3 would be to change the factory default super user password and/or create a new super user or guest. At the top of the page are navigation buttons. Go to Admin, and then select the User Management tab. The two factory default users are listed, the front panel user and the super user. Click on the pencil icon next to the front panel user. This allows you to change the default 4050 password to a new numeric password, 4 to 19 digits long. Now click on the super user pencil, and you can change the password with a length 1 to 30 characters, which include alphanumeric, symbols, and spaces. To create a new user, click Add New. Select the role from the pull-down menu. Guest privileges allow for viewing settings, viewing and saving SOE logs, or viewing admin information, but cannot change anything. User privileges allow for viewing and updating settings, RF calibration, viewing and saving SOE logs, checkback and trip testing, viewing admin information, and performing firmware updates, but cannot add or delete any user accounts. Super user privileges allow complete access to the UPLC3. User management privileges provide an interface designed for automated IT access to manage users and passwords. More information may be found in Appendix D of the system manual. So we'll select User, enter the username, in this case Bob, enter the password, we'll use test, type test again. You may also enter a description if you want, and then click Add. You will notice that the trash symbol is now red for Bob. Since you are logged in as a super user, you can delete other accounts except for the factory defaults. So let's log off and log back in as Bob. Click on Log Out, which is in the top right. Confirm. Now click Login, which takes you back to the login window. Type in Bob and his password test. Now the user shows Bob as the logged in user, and he is a user, not a super user. If I go to Admin, if I go back to Admin, then I no longer have access to the User Management tab, since Bob is just a user and not a super user. Let's go to the Sequence of Events log. One of the things SOEs record is when a user logs in, logs out, and if the account password was modified under the category of security. So as you can see, we logged in as super, we added Bob as a new user, we logged out as super, and logged back in as Bob. Now let's go back to the default super user. So we'll log out, log back in, and take a quick tour of the UPLC3 webpage. There will be future videos to cover in detail the various settings and other features, so right now I'm just going to show you where things are located. At the top of the page we have the date, if in green text with an iRig next to it, this means that you're connected to iRig. If the text is hot pink and no iRig, this means iRig is not connected to the UPLC3. Below this is the PLC mode, in this case Directional Comparison Blocking DCB, which is the factory default. Next to that is the communication mode. This will be either transceiver, transmit only, or receive only. And if you are using a DCB scheme, next to that will be master, remote 1, etc., showing whether this UPLC3 is the master, remote 1, etc. To the right of this is System ID 1 and System ID 2, which are text fields that you can enter, and the logout button. Below this is the UPLC3 catalog number, the navigation buttons, and the user and user role. Home has 3 major sections: status of the transmitter and receiver, alarms, and the transmit and receive settings. You can also change the measurements between watt, volts, and dBm by clicking this button. The web page updates every 5 seconds, but if you want to immediately update, click the refresh button located here. On the home page, status shows the current state of the UPLC3. In this case, the transmit power is minus 40 dBm and unkeyed. The receive level is minus 40 dBm, and the receive state is off. The reflected power is unavailable because we are not transmitting, and the measured fade margin is minus 40 dB since we are not receiving. Transmit and receive settings show the RF settings of the UPLC3, the transmit and receive frequencies, receiver bandwidth, the transmitter low and high power settings, the calibrated receive sensitivity, the reflected power alarm setting, the receive fade alarm, and the receive fade margin. Alarms indicate the health of the UPLC3. Green check means healthy, so in this case, there are no general alarm, power amp is good, power supply is good, and the last checkback major minor test was successful. Gray means that a module is not present, so in this case we do not have a redundant power amp or power supply, and if an alarm condition occurs, then the green circle will change to a red bell. I am now having the UPLC3 transmit blocking. The status updates to reflect this. I pulled the power amp from the UPLC3 chassis. Now you see that the status changes and that both the general alarm and the power amp alarm have red bells. I now reinstall the power amp and the red bells are replaced with green circles and the status updates. So going back to the navigation buttons, next to home are settings. Any light blue text in the settings section indicates a hardware jumper selection or RF measurement for viewing only. Unlike UPLC or UPLC-II, there is no continue button, so you can navigate between all settings tabs easily, and you can submit from any settings screen immediately. If you exit settings by selecting another top navigation button, you will get a pop-up asking if you wish to exit without submitting settings changes. Next to settings is calibrate. Calibrate brings you to the calibration page. This is where we can calibrate the transmitter, the receiver to the distant and local receiver, and the receive external CLI level. You can also select if you would like to use the receive manual calibration or the new receive auto calibration feature. All calibrations may also be done from the front panel. Pressing the SOE log button takes you to the page to view and manage the sequence of events for this UPLC3. These have been extensively updated from UPLC, UPLC-II, and there will be a dedicated training video on these. Going to the check back button, if your unit has the testing facilities option, then pressing the check back test button will allow you to review and initiate check back tests. It also shows the history of previous tests. If this was an FSK configuration, there will be trip instead of check back test. If you have an optional protocol, DMP3 or IEC61850, this is where settings will be managed. DMP3 can be programmed here. IEC61850 has its own external programming application that creates the file to upload. Back to admin, along with the user management tab, which we've already covered, you can also select the unit time access tab to change various UPLC3 specific settings. The hardware firmware tab provides the hardware and firmware versions. This UPLC3 is running 01.01 on a Rev A transceiver board. This is also where, if you were updating your firmware, you would browse for the update file and update your code. The Catalog Number tab is where you can review the UPLC3 system configuration. The MAC address for the unit, the catalog number, and the hardware configurations the catalog number represents are all shown here. This tab is also where you would update a feature that requires a catalog number to change. If you're adding Ethernet, for example, you would need to purchase an Ethernet board, install the physical Ethernet board, and then enter the soft key here, which would update the catalog number to turn on the Ethernet option. The HTTPS certificate tab is where you would generate a local certificate or upload the certificate file from your IT department for the UPLC3. Now next to admin, finally, there's the download button. This button takes you to the download page. You may download the XML settings from this UPLC3, or you may also download the report file from this UPLC3. And if using DCB, this allows you to download the report file from any remote UPLC3, UPLC-II, or UPLC at the other end of the line. To quickly review, we have the home, settings, calibrate, SOE log, check back if purchased, DMP3 or IEC61850 if purchased, admin, and download. Again, each of these will be covered in greater detail in future training videos. That is it for this training session. I hope you found this session informative. If you have any questions regarding UPLC3, please contact us at the following phone numbers. You may also send an email. The sales email may be used to contact Ametek for quotes or ordering new equipment. The repair email may be used to contact Ametek for system application questions or repair of existing equipment. We also have a website for further information on UPLC3 or any of our other Powerline carrier products. There is a link in the video description below.